Now we've got Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate in Kentucky, Charles Booker. Charles, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So this past week, Kentucky became the first state in the nation to effectively ban abortion. The state legislature overrode Governor Beshear's veto on a 15-week abortion ban and some onerous restrictions on abortion providers, meaning that the state's last two abortion clinics are going to have to close. What's the response been like in the state on the heels of this? And have you heard from any independents or Republicans on this issue in particular?
The response that I'm seeing across Kentucky is one of frustration, a lot of angst, fear. There's a lot of sadness. A lot of families are really disheartened because we realize this is not a political game. This is about our lives. It's about our families. It's about quality health care. It's about freedom. It's about reproductive justice. It's about the agency and autonomy and humanity of so many Kentuckians who are being discarded for political expediency. And it's frustrating to see politicians really play this game at a time when the pandemic has really caused so much pain. We're still trying to get on the better side of it. They were cutting access to SNAP benefits, making it harder to get health care. They're essentially saying they don't care whether we live or die. And this horrendous bill is just the latest example of that.
In terms of the response across partisan lines, like what have you heard? Because this isn't just an issue that impacts Democrats, right? Like this is an issue that, Roe is supported by the vast majority of Americans on both sides of the political spectrum.
Well, one thing that I've learned, and a lot of people will, pundits, national folks that will look at Kentucky and say, okay, well, if you're registered as a Democrat, if you're a Black person, you're not going to be able to get support across Kentucky. I've worked in every corner of this Commonwealth. And one thing that I'll tell you is that these issues that we deal with in our lives and healthcare and access to quality healthcare for women and families and abortion care, these things are not partisan when you get down to regular folks in their daily lives. And I'm hearing it from Republicans, independents, and Democrats alike that this is a terrible bill. Now, in the news, you hear all the wedges and the talking points, but abortion care and quality health care has overwhelming support across Kentucky, across partisan lines, because if you look at most indices that would determine a good quality of life, we're at the bottom in damn near all of them. So we know we need that quality health care. And so the effort that is underway now to fight back against this type of divisive, really shameful, dangerous, unconstitutional act is not partisan. We're seeing Republicans, Democrats, and independents saying, wait a minute, you've been screwing us for too long, and this is going to hurt the people of Kentucky.
Now you're running against Rand Paul, who's been among the most vocal COVID vaccine opponents. He's been an opponent to Ukraine aid. How in line is he with the voters of Kentucky?
Rand Paul probably couldn't find Kentucky on a map. He does not speak for the Commonwealth of Kentucky at all. And I can say that with very clear conscience. It's a shame because he's supposed to represent us, but he doesn't care about our lives. And we know that here. What you often see from Rand Paul is chasing conspiracies. He's arguing with Dr. Fauci, as you mentioned. He's looking for these opportunities to get in front of a camera, to talk to national audiences. I think he's trying to run for president again. But he never speaks to the people of Kentucky. He doesn't come to his district office. He doesn't go to communities and talk to people about their needs like I'm doing across the Commonwealth, sitting down with folks of all political backgrounds and say, what's pissing you off? What do you care about? He will never do that. And so as much as people are frustrated nationally that Rand Paul is in the Senate helping to screw everything up along with Mitch McConnell, those clowns do not represent us. And I'm proud to join the movement to replace Rand Paul in November.
Now, we've watched as Amy McGrath raised a pretty staggering $94 million in her run against McConnell, and yet he beat her by 20 points. Now, as people look to support candidates for November's elections across the country, what's your message to voters, and other Americans who are looking to donate to candidates who've basically, seen what happened with Amy McGrath and kind of written Kentucky off?
Well, the first thing that I'll say is that I appreciate everyone who wanted to invest in Kentucky. That's the right thing to do. Everyone who wanted to invest in making sure that we get Mitch McConnell out of leadership, Thankfully, Georgia helped us to do that, get him out of that majority seat. Investing in helping to win races that can help us win our future is important. But it's not just about the money that you raise. It doesn't matter how much money you have if there's not a vision that inspires people to believe things can be different. And so what we're seeing now is a lot of cynicism, and it's valid. Folks are frustrated. They want things to change and they're not seeing change quick enough. Well, what I'm trying to say is invest in the work to build infrastructure, invest in the campaigns and the candidates that are mobilizing people and building the movement to not just beat a terrible politician, but to make democracy real. I have over 20,000 volunteers that are involved in my campaign, and a lot of them still have their MAGA hats. We're building something that's bigger than partisan divides, and we need the investment to build the infrastructure so more people are organizing and running for office. And if Georgia didn't teach us anything, if you do invest in communities that get left behind, the forgotten places, if you organize, you can win. And I'm asking for that support now because we're going to beat Rand Paul.
Perfectly put. We've operated for a long time under the notion that in a red state you need a moderate, right? Like you're not a moderate, you're a progressive. Why is a progressive better positioned to win in a state as conservative as yours?
So an analogy that I use for the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and this is my home. I go back several generations. My family does. My ancestors were enslaved in Kentucky. They were lynched in Kentucky. Kentucky is in my DNA. The thing that I understand about Kentucky is it's like a house that's on fire. We're struggling. A lot of people are falling off the cliff. We have seen historic levels of unemployment. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I've had to ration my insulin. That is not a partisan thing. A lot of Kentuckians know that struggle. And when you're falling off the cliff, how do you moderately respond to that? How do you moderately put the fire out? What we're not looking for are policies that are walking some middle line that doesn't even make sense. We're looking for people who can bring us together, who can build coalitions, who can help us break through the division and the hate. So we need to really redefine these terms of what electability means and what does it even mean to say that you're moderate in a time when folks are dying and suffering and poverty is generational. And my policies, folks will call them progressive. I'm cool with that. I'm not looking for labels. We're fighting for our survival. I support Medicare for all because I don't want anyone to die because they don't have money in their pocket. I want to have financial freedom for every Kentuckian. So I support a universal basic income. I don't care what people label these policies as. I'm listening to the people and we're fighting for humanity. And that's why I'm getting so much support.
Now, Republicans are going to try to nationalize this race as much as possible. Every race really, with attacks ranging from calling Democrats groomers to calling them Marxists and everything in between. But all that bullshit aside, what are you running on? What's your specific pitch on the issues to voters, and what have you found is the most effective messaging or platform to run on?
So I'm running on the power of bringing people together from the hood to the holler, as I often say, our common bonds, because we have so much more in common than we do that divides us. If we lock arms, we fight together, we can change things together. We can get corrupt politicians out of office. And my vision is one of a Kentucky New Deal. Realizing the promise to end poverty, to make sure that no one is not only falling through the cracks, but being able to propel and surpass their dreams, that we invest in our infrastructure, that we invest in our people, secure life, freedom, and prosperity for everybody. And because I'm lifting up this truth, that we've been screwed, we've been exploited by politicians like Rand Paul. We've been abandoned and ignored and demeaned and mocked. And I'm tired of that. I'm fighting for my family. And this is the truth that cuts through partisan divides, and it's inspiring a movement. Kentuckians are not worried about the doubters that don't think change is possible here. We're going to prove them wrong. And this is a chance for us to choose Kentucky for a change. And I'm honored to help be a part of that movement.
Now, let's finish off with this. What's been the most memorable day on the campaign trail? Is there anyone that you've met or something that you've done that was especially memorable?
Man, one of the moments that I talk about often, I actually wrote about this in my book, From the Hood to the Holler, is I was in the hills in Appalachia, in what some people would call Trump country, Confederate flags waving. And I knocked on the door of a little old lady, a Confederate flag in her yard. And I was like, I don't care. This is my family. I'm going to go talk to her. And I went to talk to her about a Green New Deal at the time.
It seems like it's
And
just like a kamikaze mission right there, you know?
yeah, it was like it could have went bad. It could have went bad if especially if you believe in all the stereotypes. But she opened the door. She had her little blue robe on. Her hair was disheveled. I thought she was gonna cuss me out. But when I talked to her about, I'm fighting for clean water, I'm fighting for clean air. Utilities are too high. I want us to have a future that our children can be safe and grow. And I want you to make sure you can live and not be sick by the environment around you. And her response was, of course we need that. Our bills are too high. Of course we need clean water. We can't feed our children. We can't bathe our babies with this water. It's going to irritate their skin. I support a Green New Deal. And you know what? Everybody should have health care. And she became an ambassador. And the thing that inspired me is, if we stop judging books by their cover, if we get out of our comfort zones and go talk to folks and show up and do the organizing work, the coalition's ready. The people are ready.
We'll leave it there. Charles Booker, keep kicking ass on the campaign trail. You're welcome back anytime, and good luck in November.
Thank you, brother.